have a carrot snack, we're not going to just use the top of the carrot or, the meat of the carrot. We're going to use every part of the carrot down to that little, part at the bottom. And the same with mushrooms. We made a mushroom jerky. We're going to make sure we use the big mushrooms, the small mushrooms, the stems of the mushrooms, all aspects there too. And then we said, well, of course, organic is important. We want to play a role in helping reduce the amount of chemical pesticides and fertilizers that are put into the ecosystem. And then we looked at the crops that we use. And I mentioned mushrooms and carrots. It turns out those are two of the most water efficient crops there are. So whereas it may take 1,600 gallons to create a pound of almonds, it takes less than 40 gallons of water to create a pound of mushrooms or a pound of carrots. And so those are really water efficient crops. And so every aspect of how we designed and the ingredients we chose were intended to really help a consumer eat the change. And then it was wonderful to join with my Plant Burger co-founder, Spike Mendelson, who's a wonderfully creative chef, to create fun and innovative recipes and present foods in forms that people have never had before. And so I mentioned the mushroom jerky, which is, it mimics in a lot of ways meat jerky, but it's made with mushrooms. And then this newest product, the carrot snacks, are made with carrots, and they mimic a lot of what a parent might buy for a child in a fruit snack, except it's got real nutrients in it. It's made with carrots. It's not made with, the fruit snacks aren't really made with fruit. They're made with, maybe some puree or some juice, but there's no, it's been a while since that crop was growing in the ground.
And I think they're only 60 calories. So way better.
Yeah.
I have a granddaughter, and my daughter went on vacation, and I took care of her for about a week and had to pack the snacks, the lunchbox, and she was vegan at the time. She was about 9. My daughter was putting in gummy snakes and potato chips.
Yeah.
It was like, this is not good.
Well, you're right. Just because something's vegan doesn't mean it's healthier, right? So what we wanted to do was make sure they were really nutrient dense. And so a package of our carrot snacks is nutritionally the same as eating a package of carrots in terms of getting the vitamin A and getting the fiber and the nutrients. And then we sweeten it with fruit juice, so it's got a few more calories. But what's important about carrots is that when you serve raw carrots to children in particular, they're not getting all the nutrients because the cell walls are so hard. So the fact that we actually slightly cook the carrots helps make our nutrients more available, more bioavailable.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that. You're making it sound that sometimes raw vegetables may not be the best thing for you.
Carrots are one of the few areas where that's the case. I don't know another vegetable where that is true, but certainly with respect to carrots, it is.
So as a serial entrepreneur, you and your products are clearly on a mission to help the planet. Have you felt worried at all about disrupting, or maybe even threatened by disrupting big industries, particularly the meat industry? I've written some op-eds myself in talking about this. And actually, I'm in the Texas Observer right now, and Texas is the biggest beef producing state. And, I think a little bit about this myself, but how do you feel?
I'm most worried about what's happening to our planet. I'm worried about, the future that my children and grandchildren will have to live in. So for me, these are important messages and important options for people to have available. There's a great phrase, I'm going to get it wrong. We actually used to use on an honesty bottle cap, but courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the belief that there's something more important than fear. And in my view, this is what's happening to our planet.
Yeah, I think we should all be concerned. You see the title of my organization.
Right.
So I'm very concerned. So one last question for you, Seth. What do you think is the landscape? What do you think the landscape will be like in, say, 2 to 5 years? For vegans and vegetarians, Europe is way ahead of us in awareness. I think that's changing rapidly here, thanks to, I think, having the products that you've helped create and launch and market. So 30% are aware of meat's negative impacts in Europe. In the United States, the data that I saw was 10% of awareness. So it's really huge, the difference.
Yeah, it's ironic. People understand in the United States that due to climate change, they may not be able to eat the same kinds of foods they currently eat, but they don't recognize that their dietary choices have an impact on climate. So they sort of understand they sort of understand part of the impact, but not the full cycle of it. And so my hope is that more and more people will start to make that connection. What's really exciting as I look at the landscape is the options keep getting better, the taste keeps getting better, and the costs keep coming down for plant-based alternatives. And so, I've said this before, that I could see within 5 years, there'll be what I call it a flipping point where, well, if plant-based options we know they're better for the environment, we know they can be nutritionally equivalent or better because they lack, whether it's fats or cholesterol, things like that. And if they can be at the same price point, then the consumer starts to, rather than say, why do I need plant-based, they might switch and say, well, why do I need animal-based? What's the point of this whole system of raising and slaughtering billions of sentient creatures if we can meet our dietary needs without having to do that? And so for me, that's an exciting evolution that I see happening over now. Whether it's 2 years or 5 years, we'll find out.
Well, I hope it's two, but it's also exciting to see that meat producers like Tyson's invested already in the alt meat industry. And I know there are others. I'm not sure if you want to add to that.
Sure.
I'm not aware of, but that's certainly a step in the right direction for the country.
Well, it's a validation of where we see consumers headed, right? These big companies, sometimes I'd like to think they're doing it out of belief, but sometimes, they're doing it out of market research. And from my point of view, as long as they're doing it, I'm whatever it takes to help move away from our current food system is a good step. And you're not just seeing it from the manufacturers, you're seeing it in restaurants as well. And that's important as we think about shaping people's tastes. And you're seeing grocery stores get on board in terms of how they merchandise things as well. So these steps are important, and it takes the whole, it's wonderful to have activists and they play a key role, but it can't just be the activists. It takes the whole ecosystem, the industry, the restaurants, the grocery stores, the distributors, the brokers. Everybody needs to sort of embrace this as a change. And certainly when the consumer demands it, that's when things move most quickly.
And I think a part of that, just to add to what you're saying, when you talk about the products, it's also, well, and I think you mentioned the communication part, but the advertising lets people know these products are out there.
Yeah.
And that's a more consistent message than, a lot of advocates are getting a press release in here and there, but don't have the money to advertise.
That's right.
So that consistent message, I think, is helping consumers to know about these products and of course their availability.
Yeah. Well, even culturally, you need all the, whether it's musicians or Hollywood or even sports figures, you need everybody to embrace this, because you want to make sure everybody feels this is something they can be part of. It's not something that's just for one political party or one part of the country or people who look a certain way. It has to be for everybody. Needs to feel that this is something that they can embrace.
And I think along that line of celebrities, I think Leonardo DiCaprio was one of the early investors in Beyond Meat. Am I right?
He was, and so was Snoop Dogg. We had some wonderful people invest and support us along the way.
Well, that concludes my questions. Is there anything you would like to add at the end here? The open opportunity to.
No, I just want to thank you for what you're doing to help raise awareness around the importance of these choices, and also organizing events like Planet Bethesda is a great example where we can, expose people to these kinds of foods and these kind of choices and do it in a way that isn't preachy or threatening or insulting, and just making it open and accessible. That's just critical.
Well, thank you. And so this concludes my interview. Thank you to Seth Goldman. This is the Sustainable Earth Eating Channel.